Loud
This
and clear.
conference will now be recorded.
Prabhu, I can't hear you. Your voice is muted. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, Prabhu, loud and clear. Very good.
We are able to hear you clearly.
Thank you, Prabhu. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalang Pangum Langayate Gring Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyameshwaram Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ananta Kodi Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. I plead for the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas here so that I will be able to use the next 45 minutes or so in the service of describing the service that has been given to me on speaking about the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 3, talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, Prabhu. Can you all hear me? Because my side, everything seems to be frozen. So I'm just checking one last time.
No, Prabhuji, loud and clear, Prabhu.
Okay, excellent.
Your video is frozen, Prabhu, but audio we are able to hear.
Okay, that's what I was looking at. Okay. All right. So as long as you can hear me, that's perfect.
No, Prabhu,
thank you once
video
again.
also is okay. Video is also okay. We are now seeing the second slide.
All right,
Setting the context.
So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for giving me this opportunity on presenting on the Canto 4, Chapter 3. But before I dive into the Chapter 3 and the learnings that we get from the Chapter 3, I just thought it might be relevant for us to look at what is the context here, right? From Canto 4, the chapters 1 and 2, if we can get a little bit of a context, and then we can move into it. And if you look at the chapter 1, there is a very vivid description about the family tree of Swayambhu Manu, the great rishis, the sages, the Prajapatis, and so on, all the way now taking us to the the family of Prajapati Daksha. So while I'm not going to go through all of these names here, but I think it is relevant that what great personalities have been presented here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as I hear from some of our acharyas, that simply reciting the names of these great personalities that are there in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself purifies us, right, from all the contamination that we have accumulated in the various lives, right? So here we see Swayambhu Manu being presented here, his wife Satarupa, and he had three daughters, Prasuti, Devahuti, and Akuti. And then all the way, Devahuti getting married to Kardava Muni. We also looked at married to the son of Brahma, that is Daksha. Prasuti was married to Daksha. And then coming down to Akuti, and she was married to Prajapati Ruchi. And then the great personalities mentioned here. And just to mention a couple of important ones, that is Yagya and Lakshmi. And then finally, Yagya and Lakshmi get married and became the king of the demigods as Indra, right? And on the top right-hand side, you can see that, amongst the 9 daughters, one of the key ones, Anasuya, she got married to Atri Muni. And then there were 3 great personalities that came. That was Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa. With that, moving on to the next slide, where I'm going to be looking at, a little bit of the importance that is to these 3 great personalities and how did they appear. Amongst the sites of the Raksha mountains in the banks of Nirvindya river, the great sage Atri Muni, he was meditating there, tapasya, with standing on one leg for many, many 100 years, right? 100 years, it says. And he placed the personality of Godhead, and 3 of them appeared there, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, right? But he was wondering as to whom did he really call. And then finally, they said, we have three of us have come for a certain purpose. And because we wanted all 3 of us to be born as your sons. So, and that is how we see that there is the Soma, the moon god, and Dattatreya and Durvasa, who are born of Anasuya, right? And Soma being the partial representation of Brahma, that is the moon god, and Dattatreya, the great mystic, he was born of Lord Vishnu as a partial representation, and Lord Shiva expands into his partial representation as Durvasa Muni. And that is how these great personalities came into being. And then we have the family tree of the great sages, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Vasishta, Atharva, Bhrigu, and Meru. So some key names that we can see here is on the top, you can see that Angira and Shraddha had 4 daughters and 2 sons. And amongst the 2 sons, one of the great personalities, Brihaspati, who's one of the greatest learned scholars. And then from Pulastya and Havirbu, his wife, we have 1 son, which is Agastya. And then he had another son, and from there goes all the way up to Keshini, who's one of the wives of Vishrava. And then there comes Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana, right? And for the other wife, Vidavida, she had a great personality again, who was Kuvera, and he was the master of all the yakshas, right? And then coming down, we can see that the Kratu and Kriya had about 60,000 sons who were great personalities, and they were called the Valikilias. And coming down to Vasishta and Urja, we have Chitraketu. Urja was also called as Arundhati, and some very great personalities who call the 7 great sages were born there. Coming down, we can see that Meru had 2 daughters, Ayati and Niyati. They got married to the sons of Bhrigu and Kyati, that is Datta and Vidhata. And Markandeya Rishi is one of the great personalities who came in that line of Meru or Bhrigu Muni. And then there is also another great personality who is also called as Ushana Kavi, right, which is Shukracharya, that is being mentioned here as the one who comes in as a descendant of the Bhrigu dynasty. Now here comes the subject matter that we are going to be dealing with today, and a little bit of a background of his family. Prajapati Daksha, who was he? He was the son of Lord Brahma, a very great personality. He was not just the son of Lord Brahma, but he was also the chief amongst all the Prajapatis, right? Who are these Prajapatis? Prajapatis are these personalities who were born of Lord Brahma as Swayam. They just appeared from the mind of Lord Brahma, right? And he got married to Prasuti, and then of Prasuti, he had 16 very, very beautiful daughters, right? And amongst them, 13 of the first daughters, the set of the first 13 daughters, they got married to Dharma. And then they gave birth to several personalities. One of the most important is with Murti, right? Murti, that she gave birth to one of the great personality called the twin sons of Sri Naranarayana, right? And then the 14th daughter was Swaha, who was given in marriage to Agni Deva, and then she had 3 children, and then there were about 45 descendants. So if you take the 45 descendants plus the 3 children, 48, with Agni, there are the 49 fire gods who represent, as part of the demigods, who are essentially the beneficiaries of all the oblations, that are offered in the yajna, right? Especially by the impersonalist brahmanas, as it is described there. And then there was another daughter who was the 15th one, which was Swada, and she was given in charity to the Pitraloka, and she had 2 daughters, which was Vayuna and Dharini. The 16th daughter, the youngest one, was Sati, and she was given in marriage to Lord Shiva. And why was she given in marriage to Lord Shiva? It was so advised by Lord Brahma that Prajapati Daksha give his last daughter in marriage to Lord Shiva, right? And with the advice of Lord Brahma, Daksha did not have much of a choice but to just agree to it, and then he gave Sati in marriage to Lord Shiva. And Daksha used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness, which is the prime subject matter of our discussion today. And that was one of the reasons and because Sati was very, very young, and she did not even attain her mature age for her to give birth to a child, she did not have any children, right? And that is something that we're going to look at here. Now here's a little bit of a summary of the whatever we have seen so far is the family trees of these great personalities. And moving on to the second chapter. In the second chapter here, it talks about Daksha cursing Lord Shiva. Now, this is the one that leads into the chapter that we are going to be primarily discussing today, which is the 4.3, which is the talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. So let's see as to what really happened in the previous scene in terms of Daksha cursing Lord Shiva, and why did he curse Lord Shiva, right? So Vidura was inquiring, right? Both Daksha and Shiva were glorious personalities. How was it even possible that they quarreled, first of all, being such great personalities? And they quarreled so bitterly that Sati gave up her life eventually, right? And Daksha enters the sacrificial arena. In a great sacrifice held by the leaders of the universe, Daksha was welcomed by everyone, but Lord Shiva remained seated. There were two great personalities present there amongst all the other great, wonderful personalities there. And there was Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Lord Brahma, as I said, was the father of Daksha. So it was not necessary for him to get up from his seat. And there was also Lord Shiva who was sitting there next to Lord Brahma. And Lord Shiva did not get up from his seat. And that Daksha felt was a great insult to his personality, especially because Lord Shiva was his son-in-law. And more importantly, because Daksha himself was the chief amongst all the progenitors, the Prajapatis, and everybody who was present there were welcoming him with great respect. But Shiva did not get up, and Daksha felt very, very insulted. So he describes, right, in the insults through his words, the curses that he gave to Lord Shiva. What did he do? He says, Shiva is a shameless and proud person, posing himself as honest. This monkey-eyed has got married to my fawn-eyed daughter, is the description that he gives there. And he is such an impure rascal, married my beautiful daughter. Very, very strong words piercing into the heart of Lord Shiva, right? And then all the great personalities present there. He did not even mind that his father, the chief of the, the one who was of the secondary creator, Lord Brahma, was present there, and he was just throwing words like this. He is called as Shiva, which generally means auspiciousness, but in name only, because he doesn't seem to possess any auspiciousness. His conduct shows his inauspiciousness, because when there is a great personality coming, and if he is not paying respects to that great personality, especially because I'm the chief and I've been given such a position, right? This is a very clear sign of inauspiciousness. Only by Brahma's request did I give my daughter to Shiva, right? I think I should not have done that. May he not receive a share in the sacrificial oblations. Thus, Daksha was cursing Lord Shiva. And then Nandishwara, who was a servant of Lord Shiva, he couldn't simply take what was going around there. What did he do? Out of the anger, he also counter-cursed Daksha and all of his followers who were simply supporting him. The Daksha supporters will be bereft of all transcendental knowledge. Attached householders will become attached to karma kanda. Let Daksha have the face of a goat, right? And that's how Daksha got a goat face, right? And so that is the curse given by Nandishwara. So such a great personality, Nandishwara, right? He was supposed to be the one who was learned in all the scripture very vastly. He was supposed to be one who was very learned in the astrological science and the various sciences. So he was a very extremely learned personality. Curses on Brahmanas and Daksha's followers, all of that continued. And then what happened, right? Bhrigu, who was on the side of Daksha, who was the one who was actually performing the yajna there, right? The chief of the priests there, he couldn't take it, right? Because he was also cursed because he was one of the followers there. Okay, so he said, let them become atheists, be diverted from scriptural injunctions, become addicted to wine, flesh, etc., and take shelter of heretical views, right? This is the curse that was given by. So there was a lot of back and forth going on there, right? There is Daksha cursing Lord Shiva, and then, of course, Shiva did not react. He was just standing there, or sitting there rather. And then there was Nandishwara, who was affected because his master, right? And Nandishwara did know the etiquette because Lord Shiva was such a great personality. He was such a great Vaishnava, right? And when there is a great Vaishnava who is being cursed there and being treated, I'm hearing a bit of a background noise. Can you please go on mute, please? Somebody
Bandhu Prabhu, can you mute all people except Harigopala Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, I have done.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, where was I? Yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth going on, counter cursing, Daksha cursing Lord Shiva, Nandishvara wanting to not take the whole idea of somebody cursing such a great personality of Lord Shiva, and especially that Shiva was his master. And then again, Bhrigu not being able to take it, and he's going to he's cursing the followers of Lord Shiva. A lot of this is going on. But what was the reaction of Lord Shiva, who was the actual center of the whole activity, right? The focus was there. He's the one who was on spot, right? And what was Shiva's reaction? That is very interesting to see as to how did Lord Shiva react. What did he do? Shiva became morose, grave, and he simply left the arena. And then what happened? The whole yajna was just continuing there for many thousands of years, right? That is what is being described there. So we can see as to how various personalities reacted here and what was the reaction of Lord Shiva and his mental state. Now, with that as the context, right, we are heading into the subject that we're going to be dealing with today, which is talks between Lord Shiva and Sati, which is the topic on Canto 4, Chapter 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Now, begins with a question wherein Vidura is inquiring to Maitreya, my dear Maitreya, to part with one's life is very difficult. Would you kindly explain to me how such a son-in-law and father-in-law could quarrel so bitterly that the great goddess Sati could give up her very own life, right? That is the question that Vidura asked. And the whole description of the chapter 3 is basically the description of Maitreya Rishi explaining what really happened there. And that is how we come to know about the subject matter. Now, what I'm going to take you through is a very quick summary of what is there in this chapter. And then after that, what we can do is we can try and see if we can focus on some of the key points that is coming out here and what learnings would come out for us to take home as devotees, and what are the things that we need to apply in our lives as devotees. So chapter 4 Canto 4:3 is talks between Lord Shiva and Sati, where what happened is after many thousands of years, when the yajna was completed, there was another yajna that Daksha wanted to begin because he had the great support of Lord Brahma, and then he wanted to continue his yajna because he was basically the chief of the progenitors, and he had great support from all of them. Nobody could just even afford to go against him. So everybody just supported him, and he was continuing to do another great yajna, right? And then he starts that sacrifice. What happened? There is tension between Daksha and Lord Shiva. Why was there tension? Because this great yajna is being performed. When a yajna is performed, it is required that all the demigods are invited, right? While the ultimate goal of yajna is yajno vai Vishnuhu, right? The ultimate one to be satisfied in an yajna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Bhokta, Bhoktaram Jaggatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He says, I am the enjoyer of all Jagga and Tapasa, right? So he is the ultimate enjoyer. But the Lord says that even though he is the ultimate enjoyer, if his devotees, including the demigods, if they are not present there and if they are neglected, the Lord does not take the oblations that are being offered in the fire, right, or in the yajna. He doesn't take it, right? And Srila Prabhupada quotes, from Shiva Puran and the scriptures saying that how it is important that the Lord is pleased only when the devotees are pleased, his servants are pleased. If his devotees are neglected, whatever could be the quality of the yajna and whoever should be the personality involved in the yajna, the Lord simply does not accept it, right? So this is one sign of inauspiciousness that Daksha showed at the beginning, right? And then Daksha became proud. Why did he become proud? Because he had two things to his advantage. One is he had a great position, right? What was his position? He was the chief of the Prajapatis. And then he had a great lineage, right? What was his lineage? He was the son of Lord Brahma himself, right? So there was, great position, and then there was great lineage that he had, right? So these two made him what? It says Daksha became proud of being the chief Prajapati, and then Daksha starts a sacrifice, neglecting Shiva, and many of them attended it, right? And then what happened? Sati came to know about this yajna that is going. How did she come to know about it, right? everybody, is looking at through the window, right? And Sati is basically in a lockdown condition because, she has been neglected by her father, and there is enmity that is going on between father and, her husband. So she could not really go anywhere. She has been pretty much locked up there. And then she wanted to look through, and she is seeing that there are such wonderful planes that are flying, and she could see that they're all flying in the direction of her father's house, right? And great personalities, her sisters, her relatives, her uncles, and so on and so forth. Everybody is dressed so nicely and beautifully ornamented, and they're all going there. And she gets this desire that she also wants to go and visit her sisters, her mother, and her parents, and so on and so forth, right? So knowing about the festivities, Sati approaches Shiva, and Sati says, many are also going. I long to see my relatives. It is your father-in-law's event. There's no harm in going uninvited, and you should be merciful to your wife. So she's very, very nicely putting this whole thing in terms of trying to apply the logic, wherein she's applying the logic of saying that, okay, it is my desire, which means a wife's desire has to be fulfilled by her husband. So she says, it's my desire that I want to go and see my relatives. And the next one she says is that it is your father-in-law. It is not just me, but it is also you, because he is also your father-in-law. So we have to go there. So that is the second argument. And the third argument she says is, well, if your consideration is that my father, and who is your father-in-law, has not invited you, there's no harm in doing so, because after all, he's your father-in-law who's as good as your father. You should go. And especially if you have to visit a relative's place, there is no necessity for an invitation. That is her argument, right? And the fourth one she says as a continuation says, you have to be merciful to me, right? I have been suffering here without seeing my parents for a long, long time. Please be merciful unto me, right? And what was Lord Shiva's reaction and his reasons that he is giving to Sati that she should not be going to the sacrifice, right, or visiting her parents' place? Lord Shiva says, one can't go uninvited if the host, right? I do agree that even though my father-in-law has not invited me, but the real consideration here is that if the host is disturbed, angry, and find fault with the guest, that is not a good situation in which we should be visiting anybody's place, even if it is your own parents' place, right? That is the first consideration that he makes. The second consideration is there are 6 great qualities. They become false in a proud person. Now, I absolutely do not deny about the great qualities of your father, right? He has such great qualities. But in a disturbed state, what is he doing? He is simply acting out of pride, and he is being envious of me, which is the reason that I think that somebody who's acting out of pride, uh, he might continue to do what I have already experienced when I was there the last time. So that is another consideration, that you should not be going there. And the third one, he says, harsh words of relatives cause great suffering, right? And he gives the example here that if you are fighting an enemy, and if the enemy is going to send sharp arrows, and if you get killed, that is not so much suffering. That is only physical suffering. There is no mental suffering there. In fact, mentally, one should be happy because he was in the battlefield fighting, right? But here he says, harsh words are even more sharp and piercing the heart that come from one of your relative, and especially who we are dealing with here is your own father, right? So your father doesn't appreciate your connection with me, right? One thing very clearly that comes out in this particular verse is that in all of these considerations that Lord Shiva is putting up here in terms of why Sati should not be going there, none has to do with himself. He is only considering all of those aspects that are not him, right? It doesn't involve him. It is not because he insulted me. It is not because I am offended. It is not because I have developed an enmity also because of your father's attitude. It is not because of any of those things, right? That very clearly comes out in each one of these points. So your father doesn't appreciate your connection with me. So what does he really mean by that? He really means by saying that it is not you who he is not liking, or he will insult, or he will speak harsh words. It is your connection with me that will perhaps make him to speak harsh words, which will be really, really great suffering for you and might be the cause of misfortune, right? So he says, elevated people respect super soul and not the body. So he says, uh, on this verse 22, what he says really is that it is not that I have made any fault there. While your father considers that whatever, that I did not give him respect was a fault because of which he cursed me or he spoke harsh words, it is not because of my fault, because my very nature is that I am always in the consideration and thoughts of, Lord Vasudeva in my mind, and I'm always offering my respects to the super soul, to the supreme personality of God within my heart. And when one offers respects to another person, it is not that you are really offering respect to the other person, but you are actually offering your respects to the supreme personality of Godhead who is within their heart. Now, Srila Prabhupada gives this example that when a disciple pays his obeisances to his guru also pays back his obeisances back to the person. So what is really happening there? What is really happening is that the disciple is offering his obeisances to the guru, considering himself to be the supreme personality of Godhead, but the guru receives the offering or the obeisances from the disciple in the thought that he doesn't consider I'm the supreme personality, even though the disciple considers that the guru is the supreme personality of Godhead, but the guru does not think in that way. He thinks that, oh, he is my disciple, that I am trying to help and guide him in this process, which is a service that has been given to me, but I'm acting as a representative of the supreme personality of Godhead. So I receive these obeisances to the super soul that is within my heart, the Bhagavan that is there within my heart. And it is also important to see that he is Guru, which means he is a learned person. So he also sees the supreme personality of Godhead in the disciple's heart, and he pays back his obeisances again, right? So that is the exchange of how obeisances is done. It is not for the individual personalities who think that they have to be paid respect because of their position, because of their lineage, because of their education, or because of the looks of how beautiful they are, or so on and so forth, right? So then further he says, I always offer my respects to Vasudeva in pure consciousness. Ignoring my words will lead to your misfortune. So that is the theme that is coming into. So we'll get into some of these topics, as we move into it. So what I have broadly done is I have broadly classified some of the things that we wanted. Of course, this chapter itself, as Ratnanga Mataji was mentioning, in Srimad Bhagavatam, every verse is an ocean, right? Srimad Bhagavatam itself, with the 12 cantos, is such an ocean, right? And if you look at every canto, it's such so much in it, right? And if you take every chapter, right, there is still so much mentioned in it, right? And if you go to each verse, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just took the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was speaking every single day for almost 1 full month, right, in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And then what did he do? It's not just 1 hour class in the evening, like we have our morning classes or evening classes. He was speaking for 1 full 8 hours a day, right? 1 full day he was speaking about it, and he was speaking for 30 days. So it's so much in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And it's not possible that we will be able to churn the entire ocean, right? So we really can't do that. What I've done is I've just picked up some key points here to see as to if we can just meditate on these points and see if these could be something that we could apply to our lives. So the theme basically is in terms of what was Daksha's nature, and then we are going to be looking at what was Sati's nature and what was Shiva's nature, and what can we learn from this. So this is essentially what we're going to be looking at it here. All right. So the first question that I have raised to myself from the various points that are come here is, was Daksha envious by nature? Why did he act? That was the question that Vidura asked Maitreya, right? Why was Daksha acting in a way that he was? Was he really envious by nature? What made him, right? Arjuna asked this question, right? Ata kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha. He says, what is the impelling force by which he acted in a way that he acted, right? So let's consider these points. It says, Lord Shiva is the most beloved personality of living entities. So if he is the most beloved personality of living entities, the living entities include human beings and every living entity, everything that is living. So how could somebody be envious against him? Besides, it says that Lord Shiva is one of the greatest devotees. The word devotee means that it is qualified by the word nirmat saranam satam, the one who is non-envious. So for a person who's so beloved personality to all the living entities and who's non-envious, how is it possible that Daksha acted in such a way? That's one consideration. The second one, nobody is his enemy. He's a jatra. Devotees are being described as a jata shatravaha, right? Right? Sadhu Bhushana. That is one of the Bhushana of the devotees. That is, he has no enemies. How is it possible that Daksha was feeling envious about him? Sorry if there was a question. All right. Only one who is envious by nature can find fault in him. Is that something that we could consider? Because he was beloved to everybody. He did not have enemies. But if still Daksha had become envious, towards Lord Shiva, can we think that it is because he was envious by nature that he was doing the way that he was doing, right? And what are the other considerations? Is it because he had a high position or because of his parentage that he was acting? And some of these answers is what we can find in some of the slokas. Of course, there are many other verses. Whatever I could pick up, while my reading, I tried and picked them up here. And they might not be really in an order, but just from a theme perspective, right? 4.3.3, Daksha, being puffed up with his power, wanted to deprive Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva of the participation in the sacrifice, understanding that if one satisfies Vishnu, it is not necessary to satisfy his followers, right? But that is not the process. Why is it not the process, right? Yajño vai Vishnu, one is supposed to satisfy Vishnu. So Daksha is satisfying Lord Vishnu. So if Lord Brahma is not there and Lord Shiva is not there, what is the deficiency there? Is there a lacuna? No, right? Why? Because we explained that Lord Vishnu does not accept anything without his devotees. Anything that is offered to the Supreme Lord has to be routed to his devotees. So we also see that in our daily lives, when we make our offerings to the Lord, we simply do not go and offer it to the Lord directly. Krishna, please, here is my offering. No, we go through the route of this parampara. The Sri Guru Parampara is the one who take, because what is our eligibility for us to go and offer anything to Krishna? What to speak of food items? What is our fundamental eligibility? We do not have any eligibility, right? We don't have eligibility to do bhakti. So we sing during the Tulsi Arati, Seva Adhikar Diye Koro Nijadasi. Please give me the adhikar so that I can do some service to Krishna. But what is our fundamental adhikar being, bound in this material body? We can just do some activity. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyeva adhikaraha. Our adhikar is just to do our activity. There is no other activity that we can. So if you want to go away from this activity and do devotional service, which is the eternal nature of the spirit soul, one has to get that quality, the blessings, the mercy from Srimati Radharani. Why? She Tulsi Maharani. Because Srimati Tulsi Maharani is the one who is in charge of the ultimate place of Sri Goloka Vrindavan, right? She is the Vrindavanavasi, right? Without her blessings, we will never be able to do it. So we have to go through the devotees. And because Daksha did not go through his devotees, which is Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the others that he neglected, which is also their followers, essentially Lord Shiva's followers such as Nandishvara, including Sati, who was such a great personality, who was also a great devotee, right? So that is one of the items there. Now, 3.21, 4.3.21, one who is conducted by false ego and thus always distressed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of a self-realized person. So now the consideration really here is that it says one who is conducted by false ego. What happens? He is getting covered. How is he getting covered? Through the mental and sensual combination, he simply cannot take the great personalities or the opulence of the self-realized persons, being unable to rise to the standard of self-realization, he envies such persons as much as demons envy the supreme personality of Godhead, right? Further in my slides, I'm going to be describing, excuse me. So we see a very similar scenario, right? Wherein you had Hiranyakasipu. He was very, very loving towards his son. And he was asking, what is my dear son, what is the best thing that you have learned in your school from your teachers, right? So he, after considering this, the moment he heard that what he has learned is something to do with Vishnu, Nathe viduhu swattagatim hi Vishnum durasaya bahirattamanina anda yatandaihi upaniyamana steya pishatantriyam urudhamni badya. But he begins with saying that yashatmapatam gruhamandapupam vanam tatsadu manye asuravarga dehina sada samudvignadiyam asatgrahat yashatmapatam gruhamandakupam. What is the last line? Vanam vrajet harim mashrayeta, right? So that is what he says. So he says, you have to surrender unto Hari. But is that what Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear? He did not want to hear that. Why? Because it's just some time before that his elder brother was killed, right? Hiranyaksha was killed. And he could not see Lord Vishnu. He only looked at Lord Vishnu as his enemy, right? So the moment that his own son, who's in the same family of the Asuras, is supporting Lord Vishnu, who is his enemy, he could not tolerate that. And what was his reaction? At that time, he just laughed it out. And he said, okay, I think this Bala has been spoiled by some imposter who has come in the robes of a devotee, and they have spoiled his consciousness. Now, Sanda and Amarka, please go and teach them, the knowledge of Dharma, Artha, and Kama. Let them know the politics, right? But Prahlad Maharaj was not interested, right? So the moment that Hiranyakashipu could realize that the most lovable son that he had, who was just 5 years old, was in support of the enemy, who he considered as enemy, immediately his attitude towards Prahlad Maharaj changed, right? So that is one consideration that we have to make. Now, 4.3.16, he says, my dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited, and this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and thereby become angry. Now, what is that very clearly that Lord Shiva could get out of what he got, when he was in the first yajna, right? The consideration is that when Daksha cursed Lord Shiva, he was addressing him as the monkey-eyed, and you got married to my daughter who's the fawn-eyed, right? Your name is Shiva, which is auspiciousness by name only, but you live among the inauspicious entities by the bhutas and the pretas in the crematorium. What is that you take upon your forehead? It is just the ashes from the crematorium that you take, right? So all of these considerations that he made to curse Lord Shiva was based on bodily considerations, right? That was the fault, right? So because of bodily identification, thereby he became angry, and that is why I am telling you that it might not be a good thing, even though he might be a friend, for you to go there, though you were without being invited. 4.32. We're going to come back to this topic again in a couple of slides. I'm going to dwell a little deeper on that. 4.3.2. When a man becomes too proud of his material possessions, he can perform any disastrous act, and therefore Daksha acted out of false prestige. And this is going to be, as to how he acted out of false prestige, is going to be the description in this chapter. Now, the earlier consideration is said, was Daksha envious by nature? So let's look at what is envious by nature, right? Chanakya Pandita says that a serpent has a jewel on its head, is still fearful because it is a serpent. A serpent by nature is envious of other living entities, even though they may be faultless. When a serpent bites another creature, it is not necessarily because the other creature is at fault. It is the habit of the serpent to bite innocent creature. So Chanakya Pandita describes here that a serpent by nature is envious. right? Similarly, Daksha, although was qualified by many material assets, because he was proud of his possessions and because he was envious, all those qualities were polluted. So it is because of his pride. What does pride generally want? When there is pride, you're proud of something. What is that you want? You want people to glorify you, right? Pratishtasha, right? You want people to glorify you, that you're this, you're that, you're the best, and so on and so forth. The moment somebody is not describing you in such glorious words, you become a little envious about this person. Why is that I'm not being glorified? Why is somebody else being glorified? And now his consideration was that, and that's what we're going to see here, right? We'll look at this. So what is the real reason for the enmity between Lord Shiva and Daksha, and why did he act in such a way that he acted, right? This is described in 4.3.21. Daksha was envious of Lord Shiva because of his high position as an incarnation of a quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because Shiva was directly in contact with the Super Soul and was therefore honored and given a better sitting place than he. This has been going on for a long, long time. But who was Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva was his son-in-law, and he had many bodily considerations that I described earlier. So that is how he was. That is the glass through which he was looking at Lord Shiva, right? So there were many reasons, other reasons also. Daksha, being materially puffed up, could not tolerate the high position of Lord Shiva. So his anger at Lord Shiva's not standing up in his presence was only the final manifestation of this envy. So one might think, just somebody did not get up, and we are talking about somebody who is the son of Lord Brahma, the chief of the Prajapatis. The Prajapatis are great progenitors, Brahmanas, serving them, such great personalities. Just for somebody not getting up so much, right? It is not so much. It is not. What happened there during the yajna is just a manifestation, a final manifestation of his envy, but it has been building up in his heart for a long, long time. And why? Because he wasn't honored as much as how Shiva was honored, right? He did not get a command, rather, a high position, whereas Shiva, just by his humble nature, that everybody was glorifying him and giving him such a great position, right? So we already described about this Hiranyakasipu's thing with things. So I'll move on here. So now we talk about the 6 qualities that are being described in the 4.3.17, right? It says, Vidya tapo vitta vapurvayah kulaihi satam gunaihi sadbir asattametaraihi smrutau hatayam vritamana dudrushaha stabdhana pashyantihi dhama bhuyasham, right? These 6 qualities of knowledge, austerity, wealth, duty, youth, and heritage, right? You can see that they are slightly toned down versions of the 6 opulences which Krishna has in its completeness. Krishna is being described as Bhagavan, and Vishnu Purana says that Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yasasahasriyah jnana vairagyayostaiva sannam bhaga itinganam. These 6 items are called as Bhaga, and the one who possesses this Bhaga is called as Bhagavan, right? And you can see that these are all the qualities that are possessed by a great personality. So we can see that these qualities themselves are coming in from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what happened to these qualities? All these qualities were present in Daksha. But even after having such qualities, why did he act in the way that he did? And that is given here. One who is proud of possessing them becomes blind. One might possess all of these things, that Vidya, Tapaha, Vitta, Vapur, Vayaha, Kulaihi, all these 6 items he might possess. But the moment you become conscious that you possess these qualities, right, and that is the beginning of envy, and that in envy just grows on and on and on and takes the complete rupa of that personality, right? And the person becomes as good as the serpent that we saw, wherein the complete personality becomes somebody who's poison, right? We also see there is another great personality who had all of this in great extent. That was Hanuman. When he was a small boy, he had such great opulence. All of these qualities were present in him, and all the siddhis, Ashta Siddhi Navanidike Dhata, right? Ashwaran Ji Janaki Mata, it's being sung in the Hanuman Chalisa. So he was the great personality. But Sometimes when he was a little boy, he was acting in a way that was, disturbing the great rishis. So what did the rishis do? Oh, Hanuman, why have you been given these great siddhis, these great qualities? Because you have to use it in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we understand that the qualities have to be used in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All qualities. Like the same personality, Lord Hanuman himself, how he used anger in the service of Krishna, even though it is not a desirable quality. But he could use anger in the service of Krishna. Similarly, all of these good qualities of beauty, youth, heritage, wealth, all of these we can see the whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita is describing about how each one of these items are being used in the service of Krishna, right? And that is but what did the sages do? You will forget about all the qualities that you have. You will forget about all the siddhis that you have, right? And Hanuman forgot about it. And that was the best blessing. It was supposedly a curse on Hanuman, but it was the best blessing for him. Why? Because he was holding on to all these wonderful qualities and becoming such a wonderful person, thinking that he is a very humble, simple personality, a monkey. But these qualities got revealed when it had to be actually used in the service of Lord Rama. So we can see that very clearly, unless these qualities are being used in the service of Krishna, there is no use of possessing these qualities and simply being proud of them, which will only lead to becoming envious, right? So Srila Prabhupada, I just found this interesting quote and I thought I'll share this too. There's an interesting conversation by Srila Prabhupada with Brian Singer. I think this is in Australia, right? So Prabhupada, any decision, if you are on the wrong platform, whatever decision you make, that is foolishness, right? So this is very much applicable in our situation. Sometimes we are in anger, in an angry situation, we have fought with somebody, right? When you're in such a position, don't make a decision. Don't make important decisions during such times of, disturbed nature, right? Lord Shiva uses this word disturbed. When somebody is disturbed, you're not supposed to go there. When one is angry, one is not supposed to go there. So when you have such wrong platforms such as disturbance or anger, that's not the right time to take a decision, right? And therefore we are being baffled every time we are making a decision, and next time it is found useless, another decision. Because on the wrong platform, the basic principle being wrong, whatever decision you make, this is all foolishness. And he's giving an example here. What is the value of the children's decision? Is there any value? Because he is not in proper understanding what is the meaning of his decision. So one child makes one decision, another child makes another decision, there is fight. The dogs also do that, right? And then, the Brian Singer, he's the one who's conversing with Srila Prabhupada, and he's asking a question: who made the decision for Arjuna to fight or not to fight? That you will understand when you actually understand yourself. You do not understand yourself. You cannot understand why Krishna said that you fight. First of all, understand yourself. Now, why did I bring this topic, right? For one to act on the right platform, here Srila Prabhupada talks about if you are on the wrong platform, you will not be able to make a decision. And Arjuna was exactly in that platform. What is that? Um, uh, what is that verse that Arjuna begins with? Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha. No, not that. Karpanya dosho, yeah. So Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha pruchami tvam dharma samudda chetaha. He says, I have been affected by miserly weakness. And I do not know what is the right thing to do, even though I have given 5 considerations for myself that I do not want to fight, right? But I feel that I have been like a kripana. I have not been a broad-minded person. I'm only thinking about myself. I am thinking about my relatives, my parents-in-laws, my brothers and my cousins. They're all there. Everything that I have been considering is like a kripana, right? I have not been thinking like a udharadi, right? So what is the transformation that I need to make? He says, Pruchamitam dharma samudda chetaha yes shreyan nishchitam bruhitan me. Please tell me what is the best thing that I need to do. Shadimam tvam prapannam. I fall at your feet. I surrender unto you, my dear Supreme Lord, accepting you as the spiritual master. Please tell me what is yes shreyan, which is the right thing to do for me. What is the one for the best, right? So that is the question that is asked. So unless one is situated on the platform of being a udharadi means brahmana, right? Karpanya, kripana means one who's not a brahmana. A brahmana means he is udharati, brahmam charati iti. One has to seek for Brahman, and that is Udharati. So which means if one does not understand who himself is, that he is not this body and he is spirit soul, and the spirit soul is a part and parcel of Krishna, and being such part and parcel is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you are not on that platform, whatever decision one makes, that is simply foolishness, right? That is the point really here, right? Um, how are we doing on time? We have another 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So next point is about Sati. So weakness of heart, right? So Sati was not an ordinary personality, right? And it's not that she knew that her husband was insulted, she should not be going there, but how is it possible that she was overcome with this desire to go and attend this? And the reasons that she was mentioning there didn't seem like they are very mature. They seem like it is a little, of course she was not herself mature, that is what is being described there, but still she was such a great personality. So let's look at some of the points here that come up here. The weakness of the heart, it says hridaya dhaurbalyam, right? Anxiety, right? 4.3, fifth verse to the seventh verse. Sati approached her husband in great anxiety. Why did she approach in great anxiety? Because she knew that what she was going to be asking her husband is not something she should be even asking. She knew what happened, the enmity that continued for thousands and thousands of years when the yajna was performed, the first yajna was performed, right? So Srila Prabhupada says the answer for it, right? That is the natural inclination for a woman, right? A woman is always emotional towards her family, right? Even though she might be situated in knowledge, sometimes she is overcome by emotions, right? And that is why we see that sometimes when there is the description about the women are unintelligent, it's not that the women are really unintelligent, it is just that by nature they are very emotional. Sometimes the emotion takes over their intelligence, right? And they always say the man acts from his head and the woman acts from her heart. There's nothing wrong from acting from the heart, just that it is the very humble and the very simple nature of the women, right? And so that is the nature that is being brought about here. Then the desire, what was her desire? I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see the relatives. So what is the consideration here? Family consciousness. She wanted to socialize with her sisters and and in the extended family, right? And in the Canto 4, we talk about bhauma ijjati, right? And I think I wanted to cover that verse also, right? Let's look at this verse. So she was considering going there because uh, first of all she thought that it is her father's yajna, it is Shiva's father-in-law's thing, he's a relative. So all of these considerations, if you see, they are all extensions of her body. That is considering that I am body. So this verse from the 10th canto 84:13 says, Yashatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadihi kalatradishu bhauma ijjati yat tirtha buddhi salilena karhichit janeshu abhigneshu saeva gokaraha. One who, we talked about two types of platform in which one can act. One can act in the platform of kripana, and one can act in the platform of a udharati, right? Kripana means one who is always disturbed, right? Like how Arjuna was disturbed, right? I mean, at least he was posing to be disturbed in our position, right? So he says a person who's disturbed is this person, right? Who's that person? He thinks yashya atma buddhihi. He thinks this is this kunape. Kunape means a leather bag. This is a leather bag, right? We have different types of leather bag. We have human leather bags, we have animal leather bags, we have plant leather bags, we have fish leather bags, and so on and so forth. So what is inside this leather bag? Tridhatuke, kapha, pitta, patha. These three items are there. You take any leather bag, whether it is a human leather bag or an animal leather bag or a fish leather bag, all these leather bags contain the same contents in their bodies. There is nothing any different. And what is this person doing? He thinks this is what he is, swadihi. Then what he thinks, as soon as he has the yoshti, he says, right? Yoshti means the yoshit, right? That's the word that is being used in this chapter, right? Yoshit means that is he gets a wife, a woman in his life. What happens? He gets married, and then after the marriage, what happens? There are children, and then there is the expansion of the family. There are in-laws, and then there are relatives, and so on and so forth, right? And the community expands. So kalatra adishu, The moment there is a woman in the life, then everything is expanding in terms of she's expanding the field of activity of that personality. Until then, he was a single person. After that, he became a family person, which means the family is the nuclear, the extended, and so on, the community, the country, and so on and so forth. And then things Bhauma Ijjati considers that the place where I was born is where I'm attached to. So here we see that Sati was attached to her place of birth, family consciousness, and socializing, right? So in Sanskrit, the word for woman is tri, which means one who expands the field of material enjoyment, which I just described, right? So Lord Shiva, however, is different. So here, very clearly, the nature of a woman and a person. So how did they think? Why did Sati ask the way she asked, and why did Shiva react the way he reacted, right? That contrast is brought about here. Therefore, his name is Shiva. He is not at all attracted by material enjoyment, although his wife. Sati was the daughter of a very great leader and was given to him by the request of Brahma. Lord Shiva was reluctant, but Sati, as a woman, the daughter of a king, wanted enjoyment. But Lord Shiva was not attracted by that. So he was always acting on the right platform. He was always situated in the right platform. So whatever consideration that he was going to be giving is going to be on a very balanced platform. And then, of course, I also mentioned about emotional. What did she say? She said he could drink such a great amount of poison for others' benefit. And now, since his wife was personally requesting him, would he not do this? That was the consideration that she posed, right? I'm going to skip this. I think we have limited time, and then I'm going to move on to Lord Shiva. Now let's consider a little bit about Shiva's characteristics here. What was the personality of Lord Shiva? He was not at all attracted by material enjoyment. Therefore, his name is Shiva. He did not know how to take part in social life, so he was naturally not inclined towards this yajna, in fact. And whether he was invited or not, he was not even concerned. So he personally did not feel insulted at all that he was not invited, even though originally he was insulted, right? This manifested cosmos is a wonderful creation of the interaction of the three material modes or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. This truth is fully known to you. So Sati is describing the quality of Shiva here, right? And he's also describing him as Aja, the one who has transcended the bondage of birth and death. And then he's also addressed as Abhava. When Lord Shiva is addressed here as Abhava, this may be taken to mean one who has never felt material misery. So he is above. Nistraigunyo Bhava Arjuna. He is above all the three gunas. He is always situated in the Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. He is not any time in anxiety, or he is never agitated, right? And that's why he's also sometimes called as Dhira, Dhira Janapriyo, right? So Lord Shiva is referred to as one who is a Dhira, who is never agitated. When Lord Shiva heard from his wife about Daksha, the psychological effect was that he immediately remembered the strong words spoken against him in the assembly of the guardians. Remembering those words, he was sorry at heart. He doesn't say that he was hurt at heart. He was insulted at heart. He felt bad at heart. No. He was sorry at heart. He was sorry for whom? He was sorry for his father-in-law, the way that he acted. Why? Because he had created a great offense against great personalities, everybody who was present there, even though he did not consider himself a great personality, Lord Shiva. Therefore, the question may now be raised, why a liberated personality like Lord Shiva was so unhappy because of the words of Daksha? The answer is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Lord Shiva is Atma Rama, situated in complete self-realization. But because he is in the incarnation in charge of the material mode of ignorance, Tamoguna, he sometimes is seemingly affected by the pleasure and pain of the material world, right? It's not that he is really affected, but he is just seemingly affected, right? And that's described elsewhere. So therefore, because Lord Shiva, although a fully self-realized person, was in charge of the material mode of ignorance, he felt sorrow, right? And how was he situated? He was always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva. He says, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. He was always in Vasudeva Sabditam. He is always chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says in one other place that he was always chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare in his heart, by which he was always paying obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there was no requirement for him to pay obeisances when Daksha came in, which Daksha did not understand because he was covered by enviousness. So Lord Shiva put forward the argument that even if Sati proposed to go along without her husband, still she would not be received well because she was his wife. It is because of him she might not be treated well. He was always putting the fault on him, and that is the nature of a humble devotee. There was every chance of a catastrophe, and he warned about it. And even if she wanted to go alone, therefore Lord Shiva indirectly requested her not to go to her father's house. And further, he says in the last verse, if in spite of this instruction you decide to go, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relative, this insult will immediately be equal to death. Right? So, Daksha's sacrifice, which was Shiva-less, right? Shiva was not present, he was not invited, was therefore inauspicious. It was not Shiva. Anything that is Shiva-less, Shiva means auspiciousness. And if Shiva is not there, then it is inauspicious. So it was inauspicious right from the beginning with the aparad of a great Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho, and his servants, great followers as Nandishwara and so on and so forth. And then finally the insult to Sati herself. And then she gave up her body, and then Lord Shiva becomes angry, and then there is Virabhadra, and then the whole set of incidents happen there, right? So this is what really unfolds. And you can see that how Lord Shiva, no one can find any fault in him. He works for everyone's benefit. He does not make anyone his enemy. In the decision that he made, how he was sticking to the 26 good qualities of a Vaishnava is very clearly exhibited there in the way that he acted. So any decision making that is done has to be done in the platform of being a Udharadi or a great devotee, or in the platform of understanding who that oneself is, not considering that here that considerations about the body and the extensions of the body and the place that we are born, these external considerations should be neglected, and one has to really see, and that is who is a person who is a completely learned person, and that's described in the Bhagavad Gita as Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavi Hastini Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. A real Pandita is somebody who will see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart of all of these great, living entities, that is the Brahmana, Kavi, Hastini, Suni, Swapacha, and all of them, right? So he only looks at the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart, and that is really who is a learned person, and he is called a Udharati. And if he's a Udharati, what would he do? Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. So that is the nature of a devotee. That so simply possessing these qualities is not important. If one is simply taken over by pride, it simply grows into enviousness, and we end up as a person who is envious by nature, such as the serpent that is being described here. I'm not sure how much extra time that I took, and that is really what I wanted to cover here. There is one more story that I wanted to say, but that's okay. I think I don't have much time here, so I'm going to stop here for any questions if there is any time left over.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks a lot. So questions are being put in the chat. I think Bandhu Baldev Prabhu will compile all the chat questions and put it in the forum, or individually send to the speakers, and speakers can respond to that, and then we'll put it in the blog and Bandhu blog or in the forum appropriate. Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Harigopala Prabhu, we'll have a quiz now, so we request your family to stay back for 10 more minutes.
Sure, Prabhu, certainly.
So Harigopala Prabhu, thank you so much, Prabhu. It was a very nice presentation with good flow and clear-cut analysis. And there are two questions, as Jagan Prabhu said. So we will send it as a message to you, and then you can respond to us, and we will post the answers in the blog, since we are now late. So we will now go into the quiz. Before going into the quiz, I just wanted to make two announcements very quickly. Is Rasikananda Prabhu there? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, is Rasikananda Prabhu there?
Okay, what time did I start?
Okay. Second thing is tomorrow, being Thursday, we are having, in addition to the daily quiz, we will be also having a weekly quiz. So this weekly quiz, what we'll be doing is that it will be sent as a link in the WhatsApp group, and similar to the daily quiz which we are having, this will also be timed. Only thing is, it has a, from the time it is sent to in the WhatsApp group, it has a time limit of 24 hours, and then it also has a password. Once you put the password and then start the quiz, it has a time limit of 10 minutes in which you need to answer 12 questions, and then automatically, based on the answers, you will get the results at the end of the question, and you will also get a certificate if you have scored above 50%. So this has been done by Lalita Bhaktimati Mataji. So after tomorrow's class, we will be sending the weekly quiz as in the WhatsApp group, so that in addition to the daily quiz, this also can be done for our self-knowledge. Hare Krishna. So now we will be going over to today's quiz. Santa Gopeshwar Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, I am making you as the presenter. Just a second.
Sure, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, I have made you the presenter. So you can now go ahead. Over to you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
You don't have to explain about the quiz. We'll go fast.
Okay, Prabhu.
Just tell that people should go to the site and then press the key.
Okay. So is my screen visible, Prabhu? Okay, good. I can see people joining. So everyone kindly browse to kahoot.it website, or if you have an app, kindly open it and then enter this pin 377476. 19 players, 20. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. 25 players. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. 29, 30. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I guess it has kind of paused on 30, Prabhu. So should we start? 31, 32, 33.
Rama Hare Hare.